Every drawing that you do with a computer-aided design package like GardenCAD or AutoCAD, any of these CAD programs, you draw everything full size. That means when you make an inquiry of objects in the drawing, they have to spit back to you measurements that really mean something in the real world. Quite often you will start with a little mud map. Here's a little mud map of a site, and there are some dimensions on it. And the vertical dimensions through here, the linear dimension is 28 feet. So we know that the distance between those points should read 28 feet when we use the information and measure option. So information and distance from, we'll just click near that arrowhead and go up to there, and we get a value of 123.17. I'll just jot that down, 123.17. This drawing has been done in the US, and in the US we use decimal feet as our unit of measure. So that says that our drawing here is measuring 123. It needs to measure 28. So we have to scale this image down to get real world sizes. So let's do that. Well, if you divide 123.17 by 28, you get a factor of 0.227. So that's our scale factor. If you select the image, right click and pick scale, we'll nominate as the point about which to scale the bottom left corner and type in 0.227. And what we're hoping for is now, as we pan up, the image has been scaled down. What we want is when we use information and distance, we go from that point down there, we get close to 28. And I'll just pan up a bit, close to 28 feet. So we're 28 feet, close enough, 27.9, 28. So for the purposes of a garden design, we've now scaled this mud map correctly, and things will measure correctly. So in fact, we should just be able to trace over elements in here to create our drawing. So let's do that. It's a good idea when you are tracing over an image to set your drawing color to, say, something like red. And now I'll leave everything on layer 0 for the moment. We might change things later, but now it's simply a matter of going line from this point over here across to there. We'll try and keep, what we might well do is make sure that goes horizontal. See how the sketch map's slightly off? What we could do is rotate the image a bit, but I don't think that will be necessary here. So maybe the straight line does go at an angle, so I was thinking of keeping it horizontal, but we'll leave it at that point there. So now, repeating the line, we'll O-snap to near, and we'll be able to lock into, see how as you travel along here that locks in. It's a little difficult to see there. We come down to this point here and across to there. So some lines are now in. We can repeat the line, come to here and run down through there. Repeat the lines, just right clicking to repeat the line command and latch on there and go down there. That almost certainly is a vertical line, so we'll do just that. And we're starting to put things in place. Now, the garden bed, the edging of the garden bed, or this might in fact will be an area of planting. We're not too sure, but what we can do is repeat the line, and it's just clicked to there, to there, to there, and there. Roll in when you need a little more accuracy. There. There's another very short segment to that point there, across to there, through to there, and so on. I won't bore you with the detail of watching all of this, but you simply move around tracing over elements in the mud map. Well, we now have a properly scaled base plan to work with. What we can do is just select all the red lines that we've drawn, and then I'll move that. In fact, I'll copy it to be on the safe side. I'll make a copy and pop it over to the right-hand side, and we'll then move things into position. So this is the street up here. We've got a slight angle running through there. That may or may not be correct. There's our little distance indicator, 28 feet from that bar down to there. There's a tree in the middle of this area, and the planting area is broken up into two zones. This may well represent a letterbox and some paving. Now, when you're tracing, things are not precise. If you look here, can you see that my lines don't quite meet? So that's an opportunity to use the extend command, pick this as the boundary, right click and select that one, and then use the trim command. So modify and trim. I'll roll in a little. This can be the cutting edge, left click on that, right click, and then pick a little bit to slice off. So you can go over and improve your drawing if you want. But we're now in a position to start placing some plants, and I need to get a little bit of information about whether this is a lawned area with a tree in the middle and planting goes on in and around there, or whether there might well be an aim to minimise water, and this might well have some planting area in it. But we now have an accurate base map, and just to prove that, let's go once more, distance from that point there down to there, and we get very close to 28 feet. And for a garden plan, that's accurate enough for what we're after at the moment. Our mud map tells us that there's a large tree in the centre of this zone through here, and the diameter of the trunk is 2 feet. So I've put a circle in there. Let's pick the circle, right click, go to properties, and you can see that the radius there is 0.5. So I've drawn that as a with a trunk with a diameter of 1 foot. So if you change the radius to 1, we now have a large tree with an accurately drawn trunk of 2 foot in diameter. Now, if it's a large tree, it's going to have a fairly large canopy spread. But remember, this drawing's been done in the US using feet. The distribution of GardenCAD gives you symbols which are suitable for the metric environment. We need to do a small change and download a set of symbols that will work for the US. And to do that, it's a simple matter. Go to the website, go to the downloads page and pick 90 symbols suitable for use in the US, and there's a little explanation there based around what I've just been saying, and we just need to download. Click on this link here, that will download a zip file with 90 symbols suitable for use in the US, and we just put them in the blocks library, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. I've downloaded the 90 imperial symbols, so I select and I put it in the blocks folder. See, here's GardenCAD on the C drive. Here's the blocks folder. That's where all the symbols are stored. I'm going to right click on it and go to WinZip and extract the files to here, and it should warn me that there will be an overwrite, and there is. Yes, I'm going to overwrite yes to all, and that's going to overwrite all the metric symbols with sizes that will be appropriate for imperial or feet and inches units. We're not changing the symbol, we're just changing the size. So now we can go back to GardenCAD and start putting in our symbols. To begin with, we need a symbol for a large tree that's going to be in this position. We wouldn't choose a really dominant image because we don't want it to dominate the drawing. So we'll go to Library and Plant Selector, and you notice block number 1, which remember we said has now been scaled so that all the blocks are about 3 feet in diameter, which is convenient. So we just get somewhere near the center and pop it in. So there's the block. If you'd not done that scaling bit, you would have found an enormous symbol go in, and now we can scale that according to our measurements. Let's imagine that we've stepped out the tips of the canopy and it's about 18 feet in diameter, so we want to scale that by a factor of 6. So we select it and scale, just mark a point in the middle and type a 6. There's our tall tree symbol which is dominating the site. I haven't any information here about the actual canopy diameter, but many tall trees can be of that size. So now we can begin putting in our other specimens. Let's imagine this is the letterbox area, and we want to pick a little symbol that might suit the cluster planting in and around there, or several symbols. So Library, Plant Selector. We might choose this one and click in. It will go in at 3 feet in diameter, but we select it and then pick Scale, and let's imagine that that's 3 feet, so it might only be a foot in diameter, so that would be 0.3. Once the symbol's in, we can of course copy it, select it and copy, copy, copy. So let's imagine that there's a cluster of 3 of them in and around there. You might type the regen command at this point, which regenerates the drawing. That takes those construction lines out of the way. Let's carry on, and we'll just put in one more to show you, and we'll vary it just again. So library, plant selector, and let's imagine that there is some, we'll move on and pick, there was one that looks reasonable. There's a reasonable sort of plant which might sit in this area. Again, it goes in as roughly 3 feet. So let's imagine it's only a 1.5 metre canopy. So select it, scale, and type in 0.5. We'll make it half the size. So it's quite, GardenCAD quite malleable. So what we have here is a drawing that's accurately sized. We can take any measurements off that we want. We could go information distance from near to there to across there, so the driveway is 16 feet across, and so on. So any planning that we do here now is done because we've made a model of the real world.